Hey there, Weld.com world. My name is Matt Schwartz and I'm the Welding Geek. And today we're going to get into aluminum gas welding. So if you want to see how I go about doing that, stay tuned to the video. All right, we're going to start from the beginning here. The most important part is the welding torch. Now, I've just recently got a set of these blue feather torches that are beautiful, super well made. These have a unique mixing chamber that makes a super clean, nice welding tip. Blue feather and a beautiful flame, which I'll show you here in a minute. This guy has made this torch to weld everything from jewelry all the way up to your bigger, thicker jobs. They have micro tips for jewelry and then half-size tips all the way up the scale. They've got 19 different tips. He originally designed these to weld airplane airframes, and he was trying to make a torch that you could get into all the different spots and something like that. I've been using both of these for about a week, and I'm starting to prefer this one. Not necessarily to weld like this, but I'll show you how I use it. I like using it like this. You're gonna wanna get yourself a great torch setup. Now, today we're gonna be using hydrogen and oxygen to weld, not acetylene and oxygen. The hydrogen oxygen is a little cooler of a flame, so we need a bigger tip to start welding with, but it's a cleaner flame. So once we get set up to actually start welding, I'll show you the kind of flames that you need to weld with. This blue feather torch is beautiful. I'm super stoked to have these, and I can't wait to share how awesome they weld with you guys. Next up, I'm gonna go through the gas setup. We've got oxygen and hydrogen. We are going to run 4 pounds for hydrogen and 4 pounds for oxygen. Low gauge pressure for the hydrogen and oxygen. This torch runs a low pressure awesome, specific for aluminum welding. All right, the next thing we're gonna talk about is your eyewear, your eye protection. You need a special lens that filters out the orange flash of the burning of the flux. Now, I don't know if a grade 3 or a grade 5 normal green lens will do that. It might, but I have TM Technologies, TM2000 lenses. These are very expensive. I think there are other options you can get. I did a little research online and there are a couple others. I can't vouch for those, but I know these work really well. But this is like a $250 lens. So these are not cheap, but they're special. They filter out the orange flash. I don't know if like the other regular green ones will do it, but they might. So you might try those because I know they're $5 a piece before you spend the big bucks on the filtering lens. What you're trying to do is, like I said, filter out the orange so you can see your flame and see the puddle. On aluminum welding, the puddle is super hard to see. In fact, it's almost invisible. So that's what you need eyewear. The next thing we're going to talk about is flux. You need aluminum welding flux, not aluminum brazing flux, any of that stuff. You need aluminum welding flux. Harris makes some, Aladdin makes some, the TM Technologies make some. Just do a Google search for aluminum welding flux. Don't get aluminum brazing flux or any of that. We have a 5-gallon bucket of it. There's no label on it. We've had it for 20 years, but I believe it's from Harris. So you'll need that. We'll do the mixing of the flux here when we get ready to weld, and I'll explain that. But you need a flux to weld aluminum. That's basically your argon, or your shielding gas when you're gas welding. Next up, we're going to talk a little bit about aluminum. The aluminum I use mainly is 3003, 3003. That's the alloy. You can gas weld 6061 and 5052. I don't have a lot of experience in that. Welding rod wise, with the 3003, I'm going to be using 1100 welding rod to gas weld this. I believe with 6061, you might have to use the 5356. Or 4043. Like I said, I don't have a lot of experience in that, so you're gonna have to do the testing on that stuff. My main focus has always been 3003, and so that's what we're gonna work with here. Prep-wise, here in our shop, all of our aluminum is plastic covered, so it's nice and clean. You peel the plastic, give it a little acetone wipe on the edges, and you should be good to go ahead and weld it just like that. But if you have stuff that's been sitting out uncovered, you go wanna prep the surface. Gas welding is extremely picky. If you have any dirt or grime, it's gonna make your life miserable when you're trying to weld it. So what I recommend, this is my personal preference, is a red Scotch Brite. A lot of folks use a stainless steel wire brush, and that is perfectly fine and okay. The reason why I don't like a stainless steel brush is because here we anodize everything, and this tends to scratch outside of the surface. So when I go like this and you're cleaning the edges, you might have one of the wires go off to the side and scratch. And when you anodize it, that shows up in the anodizing, and I don't like the way it looks. When you have the red Scotch-Brite, you can do it along the edge and keep it nice and tidy, and it's less noticeable when you go weld. So I'll do both sides of this with one or the other, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about. It's just a little more controlled here with the Scotch-Brite than it is with the wire brush. I like making it nice and tidy. And then what you're gonna wanna do is put on a pair of rubber gloves, because if you're dealing with acetone and this stuff every day, you're gonna end up jacking up your liver, and we don't want that. I've got my acetone here. You hit it with the Scotch-Brite, wire brush, whatever your preference is, and just wipe it so it's clean. And that should be all you should have to do to prep it. Just make sure it's clean, very minimum. Hit it with the acetone on the edge, because sometimes we've got the plastic and you shear it, and sometimes there'll be a little tiny little thread of plastic on that backside. It's gonna jump into your weld and make your life miserable. So learn from my experience, wipe everything down, and that's how you should prep your aluminum. Make sure it's clean. All right, I know this is a video on gas welding, but we're gonna use our TIG setup to tack. This is the easiest, best way to tack for gas welding, because your fit has to be perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and go through all the settings on my machine. While we're here, I've got a number 5 cup on a collet. I've got a 332nd tungsten. It's an E3 tungsten. I'm gonna run it just slightly inside the cup. I'm at about 130 amps on AC current. My balance is at 75. My frequency's at 175 hertz, and that's how I'm gonna run my TIG setup. I'm running argon at just over 20 CFH, and that's how I'm running my TIG setup for tacking. So let's move over to the bench. I'll show you kind of how I tack this stuff together. All right, we're gonna do some TIG tacking here for our aluminum welds. If you're running 3003 aluminum, you shouldn't have to add filler rod. You should be able to fuse these just fine. If you're using 5052 or 6061, you're gonna have to use rod. How I tack stuff, like I said, I back set my tungsten. I'll go ahead and squeeze these together and just kick the pedal. All right, simple enough. Like I said, 3003, you can fuse tack. If you're gonna do 5052 or 6061, make sure you tack it, I don't know, maybe even every ½ inch. Because if it separates on the aluminum weld, you're gonna blow a hole and your gas welding's over. Gas welding is not very easy. You have to have a perfect setup. Otherwise, your weld is gonna look like a bird walked across it and went to the bathroom. So fuse tack, it's gotta be perfect. If it's not perfect, TIG weld it or start over. This is a different kind of flame than a acetylene flame. It's a little harder to see, but our goal is to be running what's called a neutral flame. It's not a sharp, pointy flame. It's got a nice round front, and that's where we're gonna start to do this welding. You can weld with an oxidizing flame, the hotter flame. In fact, when I come to a point where I have doublers or something behind it where I need more heat, I'll just crank the oxygen. Welding with the oxidizing flame is just fine. But we're gonna start at a nice neutral flame, and we'll give it a test. If it's not melting as quickly as I want, then we'll turn it up the heat. Once you start getting towards the end of your weld, it will start running away from you. So you need to be ready to start moving fast. Like I said, I'm gonna try to capture this behind a lens so you can kind of see. I have an overhead light. This helps out so much, being able to see the puddle, because like I said, it's not a shiny puddle, just looks like aluminum. Once you've done it enough, you can kind of tell when it starts to melt, but this is a very hard puddle to see. You need to go ahead and flux your rod. I usually will grab it up about halfway. If you are storing your rods just in the box in your shop and letting the moisture get to them, you're gonna wanna wipe them down with the Scotch-Brite and the acetone, because they will build up an oxide layer. You don't want that in your weld. If you're gonna start doing aluminum stuff, make sure you store all your stuff in sealed cases like this, and it just helps out where you don't have to spend so much time cleaning everything. Keep it stored nice dry spot, and then you don't have to worry about it. But if you're not, you need to Scotch-Brite your rods, wipe it down with acetone so it's clean. Everything here has to be clean, clean, clean. Otherwise, it's not gonna weld. All right, so I'm gonna get started here. Let's get a little bit of heat in here. You're looking for that edge to break away, and then you add rod and start moving. If this is not fit perfectly, it's gonna blow a big hole and make your life miserable, like I've said a dozen times. But I'm just pushing the puddle forward, adding rod, pushing it forward, adding rod, pushing it forward, adding rod, and so on and so forth. I'll go ahead and get through this weld. We'll take a look at it. You can see on how much this heat warps this panel. But if you take it over to the planishing hammer or mallet on the table, it'll flatten right back out. You also start to notice here, as I'm getting closer to the end, it's going to really speed up. We're going to pull away, let it cool down a lot. We'll go back in, chase it off the end again, pull away real fast. Let's do this a couple times until that little center section is out of there. So that's our first little weld. If you like this video, I'd appreciate a like on the video. Subscribe to all of our channels, the YouTube, Instagrams, TikToks. We got a bunch of awesome hosts putting out a bunch of awesome content. And most importantly, we have launched an app. It's the Weld app. Make sure you go check it out. If you're watching this video, download that app on your phone and start to become part of the Weld community. We're trying to build a community through this app, a place for welders to go, no matter if you're a stick welder, MIG welder, TIG welder, gas welder, whatever welder. We're trying to build an awesome community around this app. Download it on your phone. It has a free trial. It does cost money for the premium content, but just download it, check it out. It's an awesome app. I can't wait to see you on the app. It gives you guys an opportunity to talk directly to us too as well, the hosts. So make sure you check that out. My name's Matt Schwartz, and I'm the Welding Geek.